This is the download from Sounds Profitable, the most important news from this week and why it matters to people in the business of podcasting. I'm Newton Shuttlecotty.
And I'm Gavin Gaddis.
The download is brought to you by Podscribe. Find out more at podscribe.com.
This week, Tom Webster's favorite insight from Ad Nauseam, record labels band together to sue music AI startups, the importance of caring about audience expectations, preparedness for a post-cookie advertising world has slipped since 2022, and Acast highlights news podcasts in the UK pre-election period. Let's get started. This Wednesday from Tom Webster at Sounds Profitable, the new podcast advertising study Ad Nauseam surveyed just over 1,000 weekly podcast listeners on how they interfaced with podcast ads. On average, respondents expect to hear 3 ads in a given podcast episode, and the majority of them did in fact hear 3 ads in the last podcast they listened to. What's particularly noteworthy here is that when asked how many ads in a podcast episode is the ideal number they expect to hear, 0 is not the answer. A quote from Webster, quote, "We have built a special snowflake in podcast advertising. Yes, we have a way to continue monetizing this space and building a sustainable career path for creators, but I hope you'll agree with me that the better path for that is not doubling the ads in the biggest shows, but making buying ads on the smallest shows a friction-free and lucrative experience," end quote. Webster points to a podcast listening experience on Tuesday night when he heard 3 different issues over 2 episodes. A beer ad reminding listeners the NBA Finals were coming up. This happened a week after the last Finals game. An ad for a product wholly unrelated to sports with a shoehorned comment about listeners being busy supporting your local sports team, and a host throwing to a DAI ad break that had no ads. Podcast advertising is in a good spot, but for long-term health of the industry, it would benefit the advertising sector to lock down on small, long-recurring issues like failing to supply ads, renew vigilance around pulling time-sensitive ads, and promote an ecosystem that gets creative with ad formats.
This Monday from Sam Klebanov at Morning Brew, a group of music labels, including Universal Music Group, Sony Music Group, and Warner Music Group, have filed lawsuits against AI song-generating startups like Suno and Udio, the latter being most notable for being used to make the BBL Drizzy beat. The lawsuits allege both startups have not fully disclosed the contents of datasets used to train their musical AI and are concealing the fact they use songs from the label's catalogs to train the AI, leading them to generate music oddly familiar to copyrighted tracks. The suits claim AI imitators could crowd out human-made songs and lead to financial losses. They are demanding damages of up to $150,000 per instance of copyright infringement. This is not the first instance of audio AI content getting in legal hot water. Back in April, the estate of George Carlin sued AI-promoting comedy podcast Dudesy for posting an hour-long AI-generated George Carlin special. The special was handwritten by Dudesy host Chad Kultgen and fed into a voice-cloning AI. The now-settled lawsuit took issue with Dudesy training an AI generator on copyrighted audio of George Carlin. The special has been removed from YouTube, and all references to the special have been retroactively edited out of the podcast. A quote from George Carlin's daughter, Kelly Carlin, in the New York Times coverage of the case, quote, "While it is a shame that this happened at all, I hope this case serves as a warning about the dangers posed by AI technologies and the need for appropriate safeguards." End quote.
This Tuesday from Signal Hill Insight's president Jeff Vidler. Back in the 1970s, FM radio was the new kid on the block. FM stations had a competitive advantage in running fewer ads than AM stations and in higher audio fidelity. Then, as FM achieved mass appeal and AM radio fell to the wayside, the cool new kid factor faded. Along with that was FM's ability to handpick ads and provide a more curated, personal experience on a per-station basis. Podcasting is still in its cool kid phase, but has the opportunity to learn from FM's history and not lose that personal touch that makes it one of the industry's superpowers. Podcasting covers virtually every possible niche and is intensely personal, with studies like Ad Nauseam and the Ad Bargain backing that up. 28% of Ad Bargain respondents watch or listen to all ads they encounter on podcasts. 5% more than radio in second place. To leverage this, podcasting needs to prioritize the personal relevance of podcast ads, as Ad Nauseam found the lack of interest or relevance is a primary motivating factor for respondents, that's about 37%, skipping an ad in their favorite podcast. Vidler evokes Mark Twain with the famous quote, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes," end quote. Podcasting could follow in FM's footsteps, or it could forge its own path by working to preserve that distinct, personal listening experience that makes podcasts unique.
This Monday from Kayleigh Barber at Digiday, a study from Adobe surveying 2,841 marketers in Q1 across 7 countries found fewer marketers feel prepared for third-party cookie retirement than in recent years, with 49% still relying on third-party data. A quote from Barber, quote, "Adobe's study found only 28% of respondents spend at least half their marketing budgets on cookie-based activations, down from 45% 2 years ago. But the majority of spend is being allocated to environments that help replicate the easy audience targeting experience, like social platforms' walled gardens," end quote. 62% of respondents said they plan to shift their spend primarily to walled garden ecosystems like social media platforms. Podcasting, by virtue of having always cultivated first-party data as a valuable resource, is particularly prepared for a post-cookie world. The onus is on our industry to make marketers/brands outside of our sphere aware of that readiness.
This Thursday from Podcasting Today, the UK general election is set for July 4th, which means June is the region's pre-election period. During this period, the UK government goes into a media blackout and abstains from providing any public funds to advertising campaigns on media that involves politics, keeping the government neutral during the month before the general election. During this period of abstinence, Acast is harnessing the increase in political content. According to Acast and Podchaser data, UK politics-focused podcasts have seen a 53% increase in unique listens. The company is currently focusing on recommending politically themed podcasts in the Acast ecosystem, as well as running out-of-home ads in major UK railway stations to target commuters. Finally, it's time for our quick hits. These are articles that didn't quite make the cut for today's episode, but are still worth including in your weekend reading. This week, New York Times to move podcast behind paywall by Ann Steele. All but the latest 3 episodes of The Daily will be archived behind the paywall, as well as early releases of new serial episodes. Apple TV Plus reveals trailer for new Apple original series My Devo, premiering July 1st. The show marks the first ever dual-language Apple original and the first instance of an Apple TV Plus video podcast allowing subscribers to access episodes early on Apple Podcasts. Spotify announces new US plans. The new pricing and plan layout includes a $1 cheaper option without access to 15 hours of audiobook streaming, and a $9.99 plan that only provides 15 hours of audiobook access. YouTube will ask iOS users to allow tracking for more personalized ads by Abner Lee. The notification will make users aware that they will receive random, possibly repeated ads if they don't provide tracking details. And finally, Metals, Mics, and Marketing, how sports podcasts bring brands closer to the conversation. The study from Global takes a look at the power of sports podcast advertising and how it can be leveraged.
And that was The Download, brought to you by Sounds Profitable. I know we went through today's stories fast, so be sure to check out the links to every article mentioned right in your podcast listening app or on the download section of soundsprofitable.com. And thank you for sticking with us as we bring you the top stories you might have missed from the past week. I'm Newton Shuttlecotty.
And I'm Gavin Gaddis. Our producers are myself, Newton Shuttlecotty, Brian Barletta, and Tom Webster. Special thanks to Spreaker for hosting The Download, and thanks to you for joining us. Robot?
Download complete.